dreams, skin those schemes. Gotta help me play with us with some beams.
Hey, what's up? What's up, party people of the SFL? What's going on tonight? This beautiful Thursday night. Hope you're doing well. I just saw one of the. I saw Charles's comment real quick before I jumped in. It said, "This is not Frankie Goes to Hollywood. It should be Freddie Goes to Hollywood." Absolutely, Freddie Goes to Hollywood. There's another nickname for Fab56 Freddie. What's up, peeps? What's up, SFL party people? Welcome to episode 51 of Axis Live. I'm your host, Dave Axis, and I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to tonight's Season 16 Draft Special. Tonight is all about the draft. Hopefully you can hear me pretty good. I know you guys could hear the music pretty well, but hopefully you can hear me as well. We have several mock boards to dissect with several panelists I will introduce momentarily. We have some Season 15 rookies here to share their draft experiences and answer any questions you might have for them. And we'll be breaking down each round of the draft. And on top of all of that, our very own commissioner, Cameron Irvine, will be stopping by. He'll be popping in to let us know, let all of us know exactly what to expect this weekend with the 3 days of the draft, or the 3 evenings of the draft. Also, we have a very special teaser video and surprise announcement from Cam Curtis and the team over at Epic Esports for our After Dark segment. So stick around for that to see what their announcement is all about. Before I go to the party people, I just want to say publicly to the SFL, Jeff Gagne shared some news with the SFL today about his mom, and we just want to tell Jeff that we are all thinking of him. We are all praying for him and his mom and his family, and we hope nothing but the best for all of them, everybody in the entire SFL. So, Jeff, hopefully you'll hear this and know that we're all behind you and we're here for you. All right, now let's check out the party people. Let's see. Man, first guy in the house, Charles Doherty. What's up? Usually he's late to everything. Pink Lisa, my lovely bride. Nate Hall, Tyler Falk, Jason France, the Crim Reaper, Chef Pockets. Is that kind of like Hot Pockets but different? Doug Britton, Project Crusade. Robert Garrett Jr., I'll be hanging out with you on Monday night. Cliff Grizzly is here. Hubba Breezy's back. Did you miss the last couple shows, bro? I don't remember seeing your name. Chucky B, Big Dog 44, Jack Lewis. Who we got? Bo Martin Jr.'s in his house. David Leathers is here as well. Let me see. Freddie's in there, of course. Gunny. I see Gunny. Dion Hawkins is back. Good to see you, bro. Doug Britton, as always. Great follower of the show. Coco Yo. Not sure who you are. Not sure if I've seen your name. And if I have before, I apologize. But welcome to the show either way. Mission Impasta. What's up? Every time I say your name, I get hungry. Who else we got? Jimmy Hazard's back. Jimmy Hazard. You hear me say your name? Jimmy Hazard. Hey, Jimmy Hazard. Can you hear me say your name? Riddler's in the house. Is that like Raiders? My Raiders that are playing tonight, Thursday Night Football. Viv 516. CCR 71. Who else we got here? Coach is in the house. Good to see you, Coach. Towlish is back. And I think that's about it for now that I can find. So here's the deal. We've got a great panel. It's about half of our normal size, which is usually around, freaking 20 or so in here. But we only have 7 tonight. That's it. 7 panelists. And we have somebody new that I don't think has ever been on the show, that nobody has ever heard from before. You've seen his writings in the SFL, but you do not have the privilege of hearing his voice prior to tonight. So he will be making his debut right here on Access Live. All right, let's get these introductions going so you can see who your panel is tonight. First off, the man who I believe I heard a rumor is going to be on the cover of the new tight end calendar for the SFL. Benji Matson's back with us. Benji, is that true? Oh, Benji, I can't hear you. Can you guys hear Benji? Can anybody hear Benji? Or is it just me? Benji, I can't even say you're muted, bro, because you're not muted. Let me go over to Eagle. Maybe it's on my end. Maybe I can't hear anybody. Let's see. Eagle, are you here?
No, I am not here.
Okay.
No, I couldn't hear Benji either.
Yeah. All right. Good. Okay. I'm just glad it's not my OBS again like it was before. Eagle, welcome back to the show. How you doing, bro?
Oh, I'm fantastic, Dave. Thanks for having me on for the draft preview show. This is kind of what I'm excited for, talking about the draft this coming weekend.
Awesome, and we're going to be asking you some questions in a little bit as well. Back with us, as always, every single show, the wisest man in the SFL, Gunny's here. Gunny, what's going on?
I'm good, Dave. Thanks for having me on show 51.
I know, bro. I'm sorry, everybody. Right after the 50th celebration show that we had on Tuesday, I realized that I went to everybody on the panel to give their stories, their thoughts, their memories of the first 50 shows, and I skipped my right-hand man. I skipped Gunny. So I'm hoping Gunny will be able to throw that in his pearls of wisdom tonight. I apologize profusely, though, just in case anybody's wondering. A newcomer to the panel. You've seen his writings. You've seen his mock drafts. I think he was like in politics or something before. Now he's doing esports writing. Mr. Jason Miller is with us this evening. Jason, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome, bro. Thanks for being here. The commissioner popped in. I will introduce him real quick. Cam, thanks for coming in. Welcome back to the show.
Amazon is sick and tired of hearing me ask about if they have the tight end calendar in stock, and it's just driving me nuts.
Well, that's a good problem to have. What do you know? From across the pond, back with us, who's been doing some writings. If you've caught him, I believe he's done 3 of the divisions already for the draft outlooks. He's got 3 more to come. Welcome back to the show, Mister the one and only Slyn Shady. What's up?
Hey Dave, just drifting between melancholy and irritable right now. Other than that, I'm okay.
Well, that sounds like a perfect combination for this show, and actually, so welcome back.
I just love how you pretended like you read my writing.
Bro, did I not send you a clip of one of your articles today and showed you how I read it?
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I have proof. I'm
I
just
didn't
saying.
believe that for a second. Move on, Dave.
All
Move
right. Anyway, a gentleman who's been on the show several times and showed us his mock draft 1.0 on Tuesday, but wasn't able to be here to discuss it, is back so we can discuss it. Mr. Mike Twinscrew is in the house. Mike, what's going on?
What it'd be like. Hey, I'm just here to try and help out with Slyn's enthusiasm.
Well, good. And you know what you need to do? You need to kind of lower your voice a little bit, get a little more
All right, got
bass, get a little more bass on that voice, would you? All right, and then last but certainly not least, and we'll get back to Benji also, but the Mr. Minor Leaguer himself, Mr. Netma, who just had his very first show last night, was humongously successful. Tyler Falk, welcome back to the program.
Dave, it's an honor to be back here. Again, I want to thank everyone who was on the show last night. I apologize for not having my Twitch set up so it could be saved. That way you guys who missed it can go back and watch. But the first episode will kick off next week on Wednesday. And Dave, I'm looking forward to this upcoming draft. And I think I speak for the rookies, for all of us rookies. We are nervous as heck right now.
Well, good deal. That's good. It's good to be nervous. Nervous energy is good energy, bro. And then now let's see if we can hear him. The cover model for your SFL tight end calendar, and I do emphasize the words tight end, Mr. Benji Matson.
Testing 1 2. I think you muted me on purpose back there, Dave.
Maybe not. I don't know. I plead the fifth.
I can neither confirm or deny that I am on the cover of that publication.
I can neither confirm nor deny that I muted you.
There we go.
All right, welcome back, Benji. Thanks for being here, bro. All right, everybody. Oh, look at this. I forgot again. That's 2 shows in a row. Look at boom, monologue slide, boom, party people slide, boom, panels. I must just be so excited about this show that I sometimes forget what I need to do. Before we get into breaking down these mock drafts, let's double check the draft order. And if Cam is actually looking at his screen, I want to ask him real quick if any of the draft order has changed, or is it everything is still the same as it was posted a few days ago?
Still the same, Dave, and I just want to say, whoever's making that tight end calendar, my dag should be February, so I have to look at him the least out of all the tight ends.
That's perfect. All right, so you got San Diego kicking things off, DC, Portland, London, Tulsa, LA, Vegas, Carolina, St. Louis, and Fort Worth is your top 10. The fun part is going to be round 3, which, by the way, yours truly will be hosting with a panel of, I think, 5 or 6 other guys on Monday night. We get Florida for a pick. We get San Diego for a pick. We get Tulsa for a pick. Or 2 picks, sorry. Houston for 4 picks. And then it's all DC all night long. So sit back and relax and find out how DC is going to fill up about, maybe 2/3 of their roster on Monday night. Also, thank you to Tyler Falk for both that draft order graphic and this one, Team Needs. As we take a look at these team needs, these are as updated as we could find. Tyler put this together. Tyler, are there any changes that need to be discussed, or is this still pretty accurate?
This is as up to date as it was since Eddie Gage was the final free agent signing. So all of these are just basic team needs for every single team in for positions. There are some like Florida that they don't have a single outside linebacker drafted, so that outside linebacker position is doubled. I didn't put that in there, but basically, as far as straight up and down depth chart, they need an outside linebacker.
Okay, so as you see, I like how he put in parentheses, you've got how many picks everybody needs. So like we mentioned a second ago, where are they? DC needs 15 picks. The second most picks this season, I think, is only like 6 or 7 somewhere. Let me see. It would be Houston needing 7, and then it looks like Tulsa would be next. So, and there's only 3 teams, as far as I remember, that will not be picking. It's Baltimore, Louisiana, and does anybody remember the other team?
Charleston.
And Charleston. So there you go. So kind of get you set for the draft order and the team needs for every team before we start diving into these. I'm going to bring Cam, are you on a schedule? Do you want to talk first, or do you care when you go?
Whatever, Dave. You just keep the train on moving. I do want to ask Jason, though. Jason, are you one of the ones that sent me an email a long time ago asking if there was any chance to write?
Maybe, maybe not.
I knew it. Steel trap this one.
Yeah,
no,
is.
Dave, you run the show. I got to run the show 3 nights in a row, and it's always the most stressful show to produce because it's very difficult. So you just cruise on through this.
We'll probably make it more difficult for you on Monday night too, but we'll talk about that later. All right. Yeah. So first, you're welcome. First, I want to bring in Mike Twinscrew. We discussed his first round 1.0 mock draft on Tuesday night. He wasn't able to be with us. So, Mike, we wanted to bring you in. There's a couple questions that I think people have. I think the number one question, though, is where is his name just went out of my head. Todd.
Yeah, Will Todd.
Sorry, Will Todd. Yeah, Will Todd. Where's Will Todd?
So as you see, I don't have any tight ends going in the first round. Will Todd is my number 2 tight end. So I'm gonna look at working on my second and third rounds tonight and tomorrow. Maybe I can drop it to early tomorrow and see what happens. But that's where I got him right now.
Okay, great. All right, so I think the general consensus on almost all of these mock drafts that I've seen has Mike Ryan going number 1. Some sort of wide receiver going 2.
No.
What's that?
Who the hell knows?
I mean, right? Who knows? Who knows for sure? Here's the interesting thing, though, that I want to ask you about. A lot of the other mock drafts that I've seen has Jack Lewis going in the first 4 or 5 picks. Why do you have him going so much later?
So I looked at. There's a lot of teams out there. Not a lot. There's really only a few teams that need a kicker still, but I was looking at and trying to get, like, say for London. I was trying to get into Chad's head a little bit, which I know is a dangerous place, and thinking that he would go O-line first before a kicker. So that's why I got London with the Greg McDonaldson. Just going more with team needs. Granted, Jack Lewis would be a great pick for wherever he lands, and I got him at 11 at Queen City. But I think some of the team needs ahead of that were just, and I hate to say it, but more important.
Right. And now I also see that you've got Tommy Utah going to quarterback to Vegas, and then you've got Colin Pierce going to St. Louis, but you didn't have Tulsa, who also needs a quarterback. I think it was Tulsa, or is it Houston? I'm sorry, Tulsa. It's Tulsa, right? Tulsa needs a quarterback?
Yep.
And, yeah. But you don't have them picking their quarterback first. Because they have the chance to grab the quarterback they want, why do you have them going free safety rather than quarterback?
I just thought that the quarterback or the free safety was pretty important for them, just the way that I know the guys on the team. I was with them in Madison last season for the minor league. And figured that they would go free safety first, and that their quarterback, who they've been talking to, whoever that may be, would still be there for the next pick.
Okay. And then lastly, let me ask you before we move on to Frank's draft real quick and I start bringing in the panelists, any last words you want to say about your draft overall? Any potential changes coming down range? Anything like that?
Just to hopefully I'll be able to work on the second, third rounds, and again, and I know that you guys have stressed this quite a bit, and everybody stresses it in the chat. It's an opinion. That's all it is. So take it with a grain of salt, whatever, and go from there. I did stick with activity as my highest priority. I think teams will be still looking for a lot of activity compared to last season.
Okay. Benji, let me bring you in real quick. We saw this the other night when you were here, but what do you think about Mike Twinscrew not having any tight ends in the first round? How are they ever going to get on a calendar?
Well, I popped it in the chat. I don't think Mike Twinscrew believes in tight ends. I'm pretty offended, actually.
Well, he is a diva wide receiver, so I can understand that.
There are a ton of great tight ends in this draft. And the value of the tight ends in this draft, I think, is higher, maybe at a baseline than they were even in season 15's draft. They're all coming in ahead of me even. So I think that maybe if owners haven't zeroed in on their particular tight end of choice, I think that they might be feeling pretty confident that if they need to wait, they're going to have someone that they can select that they're going to be very happy with. I guess we could if we're going to peek in that Twinscrew's brain there a little bit, that might be what he's thinking.
Gotcha. Eagle, let me bring you in here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers going in the first round. What is your thought process on that? And then what do you think about the fact that he has you guys in Vegas taking a quarterback but not Tulsa?
Well, wide receivers, there's going to be a decent amount, I would think, 4 or 5 that potentially could go in the first round. So I do agree with Twinscrew on that. Quarterback, again, the needs for Tulsa probably are a little bit elsewhere, where they might find a prospect they like more and can hold off and not draft their quarterback until the second or third round, their second round pick. Yeah, so that's where I think. But I do think that there is going to be more wide receivers in this draft being selected in the first round than there was last season, right? Because last season there were 0 for wide receivers drafted in the first round. Twinscrew, for example, was the first one drafted. I believe DJ Hume was the second. I was the third wide receiver drafted last season. So it's definitely a position of need. At teams more than others, and you have to take advantage if you find the prospect that you want.
Nice. Hey, Jason Miller, once again, welcome to the show for the first time. I know that we're actually going to get to your mock draft shortly after we talk a little bit about Frank's. But based on what you've seen, what you've reported, what you've written, as you look at Mike Twinscrew's 1.0 mock draft, does anything stand out to you that is maybe completely different than yours?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a couple spots where, like I don't think Vernar Smith is that high. He screams a different name for me, but we'll get into that, momentarily. But in the end, I mean, there's some decent selections in there. I think Kingston Ellington is a guy that might be a little bit lower on my board compared to other guys. But, it looks like a lot of Salt Lake City rustlers in this board.
Yeah, there does seem to be.
There seems to be a lot of those, but that's okay.
Okay.
But like I said, there's some interesting picks here that he's got for sure, though.
Gotcha. All right, I'm going to pull up Frank's board real quick before I go to Slyn Shady. We pretty much dissected this the other night. I know this one's maybe a little harder to read because he's got 3 rounds, but I wanted to put them all on one graphic so we could compare them side by side. Again, a lot of wide receivers, a few more than normal. He did explain the other night, for those of you who maybe didn't hear him, that by the time he didn't fill in the last several picks for DC, because at that point it's just a free-for-all and they can grab whoever they want, so there's no strategy per se to it. So he didn't fill that part in. So Slyn, as you saw Mike Twinscrew's draft, and now you're looking at Frank's. Other than the fact that Will Todd, I don't think, is on this one either, does anything else besides that stick out to you?
Well, as I'm squinting to see the names.
Are you on a phone or a PC?
No, I'm on my PC, but
okay.
I'm okay. My eyesight is terrible. I think the fact that, it's different in the sense that Vegas and St. Louis aren't selecting a quarterback in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And I think St. Louis, for them, if they're the sort of the third of the three teams that need a quarterback, if we ourselves and Tulsa selected two guys who they didn't want, they're in a very strong position because they can just take one in the third round if they wanted to, or with their last pick. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably where Frank's gone with St. Louis selecting Tommy Utah way down in the second.
So let me ask you a follow-up question on that, on the quarterbacks. Do you think so? Tulsa's kind of in the driver's seat with quarterbacks, right? They can take they can take over they want. If you're St. Louis or you're Las Vegas, which you actually are Las Vegas, if Tulsa doesn't take a quarterback, should Vegas take their man? And if Tulsa and Vegas don't take a quarterback, should St. Louis take their man?
I think if I was St. Louis and my guy was still on the board, I would then address other probably more competitive positions. And as Vegas, we just need to almost half trust that St. Louis happen to not be looking at the same guy as us. One thing I noticed about Twin Screws draft was the fact that JQ wasn't on there, and he's the quarterback with the max attributes. And I know that was down to the way Twin Screw does his draft, but I just thought that was an interesting thing. And
I see that. Well, I'll ask him a follow-up question on that, but you're right. I just switched back over to it.
And then the fact that it seems like pretty much every defensive tackle in the SFLM is selected in the first round in Twin Screws. I did get more time to look at Twin Screws than I have Frank, so that's why I'm assessing that one more.
Okay.
Go on.
I was just affirming your comment. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before I move on to Tyler?
Just a lack of love for Salt Lake from Frank in the first round. I mean, dude, just pushing his way. DC's basically taking all the Salt Lake's players, it seems. So, that's all I've got to say, really, I think, as I try and struggle to see the names.
Gotcha. Tyler, let me bring you in here. I know you talked about this on Tuesday night, but as you look at Mike's and Frank's draft, again, other than the Will Todd situation, what stands out to you?
The fact that in both, I'm happy to say that Memphis is represented well in the first round. I wasn't able to complete the number for Mike's.
Well, let's take a look. I'll pull it up right now.
I'm just completing the tally.
3, 4. He's got 5, and Frank has
5 as well.
Okay.
So both have 5, and I think they're about the same number of people and the same people going in the first round. So that's really good news for my Memphis River Runners. In Frank's, there's a lot more Birmingham and a lot more Ottawa going in the first round, as far as minor league teams goes. So a lot of different opinions, a lot of different areas and avenue. But what I'm seeing is there's a very distinct way of thinking when it comes to Riley Quintero. Either Riley Quintero is going to go to DC right away, or he's going to fall down the order a little bit, but still go in that first round. That happens to a couple different people. Bernard's going to be one of them that people are saying he could go here or there. But no, I think it's fantastic. I really don't have too much I would put in there. Maybe move Achilles up into that first round from the second round if I'm looking at Frank's draft.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to see. To see.
Okay. Before I go to Cam and ask him a question, Mike Twin Screw, let me bring you in here real quick. What do you think about Frank's draft and how it compares to yours?
I think Frank took a little more time than I did. Life's been crazy, so I don't want to say I rushed it, but I didn't take the time that I did like last season. So I think that's the difference. Frank probably used a lot more of these stats and things like that, where I just kind of glazed over him a little bit. And you'll see that if you look at my guys that I have on my draft. Some of them are mid range in the stat wise and things like that. So that's probably one of the big differences.
Okay. Cam, let me bring you in for a second. You see Mike's draft board, you see Frank's draft board, and we're going to look at two others that we have coming up in a moment. But from what you've seen so far, what do you think? What are you thinking? Especially with this 3-round one by Frank, taking it almost all the way to the end. Is there anything that stands out to you?
Well, I think that there's a couple of things that could determine some sort of dominoes that fall in this draft, which I think is kind of what makes a mock right or not, right? So, for example, in Frank's, he's got quarterbacks going later because he's probably thinking that either Tulsa, Vegas, St. Louis, they have options, right? There's a number of guys that they want. If one of those teams decides I'm going to get my guy, it could be a very quick night for quarterbacks,
right?
Because now the other teams are going to start. If they have two options and one gets taken, now they're down to one. They need to take one. But until that first team kind of makes that first move, it could end up being a long night for quarterbacks, right? Same situation for the outside shots of running backs, right? You still can shelve a second running back on your team on those long drives. The generics come in. We saw in the championship game that Birmingham fumbled at the goal line it was Albuquerque that fumbled at the goal line because their backup came in, and the backup was a generic. So you never know what could transpire there with any of these teams, so they could be looking there as well. But another interesting position looking at the draft to me is corner. From the first pick to the sixth pick, there's a 5-point drop in value. So if corners start going early, especially when teams that have a bunch of cap space are up next in the draft, they could end up looking at corner maybe earlier than they wanted to because there is a little bit of a drop in talent off of that sort of upper echelon of DBs in the SFL, just in terms of ratings. So I think it's going to be interesting, just, what dominoes fall when and where and which team sort of sets that tone for those to fall. That's kind of what I see out of this draft.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm going to switch over to Twin Screws real quick too. Yeah, he's got the two quarterbacks, but who's to say if Tulsa goes quarterback, we don't see all three quarterbacks done in the first 9 picks of the draft, right?
Yeah, it's hard to know, and then if St. Louis has a few guys in mind and the first two quarterbacks that go aren't theirs, well, they could just wait till the late second round, right, to get their guy. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the chips fall, who's on the board, who gets taken, and what kind of moves dictate other moves, particularly at positions like offensive line or kicker, kind of like what Mike was talking about with, there's needs in some areas where there are less players, whether that be defensive line, offensive line, special teams. If those players start getting gobbled, you could see some teams get desperate earlier than they had hoped.
All right, Cam, thank you. We're going to come back to you in just a little bit so you can let everybody know what to expect this weekend for the Season 16 draft. Thanks. You guys have seen Mike Twin Screws mock draft. You've seen Frank the Franchise Wade's draft. We're going to be getting to Jason Miller's in a moment, but I do want to share something that I got today. It is an anonymous draft, and I want everybody to kind of talk about it because, number one, I'm interested to see what people think about somebody anonymously sending me a draft, but also if anybody has any idea who this is. So let me start at the top. Benji, as we as I moved Jason Miller back in there, as you look at this, it's very similar to Mike and Frank's draft, except that he does have Jack Lewis up early. They have DC taking RQ, but they have him later. And what else do you see on here that might stand out, maybe different from Mike and Frank?
Well, different font, Dave. To begin with, there.
That's great. That's actually a great point. That's
Yeah.
a great point.
Deductive reasoning there. We got Riley Quintero still going in the first round, but we think that DC is going to get him at the end of the first. Ha ha. I'm going with Jack Lewis first at kicker. Charlemagne Cornelius comes in at fullback for Sioux Falls in the round.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
That's a new name there.
Mhm.
A lot of wide receivers there with Riley going at the before them all. I know we've kind of with Riley leading the wide receiver crew, he kind of gets the first one mentioned, but that's interesting that the way those dominoes fall in the first round here in this mock. I had to study this for a bit longer.
Yeah, I see. So I'm looking at Chris. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers on his as well. Eagle, back to the wide receiver conversation. There's a lot of mock drafts that seem to be first round wide receiver heavy.
No, agreed. Again, wide receivers, when you may have a wide receiver 3 spot, but you want to find a player that you could see fit in your team, take advantage of it, right? There's no supplemental round. There's no 7 rounds this draft.
Right.
You can't, players cannot be selected at secondary positions for the most part. There are some positions you can get drafted at a secondary position, but for wide receiver, you have to be drafted as a primary wide receiver. So if you find the guy and you don't think he's going to make it, 24 picks to your next potential pick, you have to take advantage and grab him.
Right. Jason.
And also, Dave, sorry, I'm going to
go ahead. Go ahead.
Some teams have 19 players, for example. Atlanta, I believe, has 19 players. Denver has 19 players. They have wide receiver openings. It just makes sense for those teams to take wide receivers.
Right, because they only have the 1 pick in the first round anyway. Got it.
Yeah, they only 1 pick in the whole draft, so yeah.
Right. Jason Miller, before we get to your mock draft, tell me your thoughts on this one from whoever this anonymous source is, and the fact that, again, no tight ends in the first round.
Yeah, I think people just forget about the tight end. I mean, we have probably the sexiest guy of all, Benji Matson, the tight end. But, that's why my mock draft's a little different than everybody else's, because I do have tight ends going on in my mock. So we'll pull that up here in a minute. But this one's a really interesting one because Hubba Kimbrell being 8th, that's really interesting to me, him falling to Carolina. I don't have a fullback going for a hot minute. But there are some picks on here that I do agree with.
Got it. Benji Matson looks like he said he loves Jason Miller in the chat. I'm not surprised with a compliment like that. Slyn, are you able to see this font on your PC?
Just about, yes, I can see it. It does feel a bit like an eye test, though, the black and white kind of font.
Gotcha. So these guys have you taken Marco Swift at corner versus quarterback earlier in the other one. What else stands out or jumps out off of this page to you?
Do you know what I want to see? I would love to see, and this is kind of just me self-flagellating here. I would love to see Riley Quintero go to Atlanta. I just really would. No offense to any of the other wide receivers, but with Bryant Dynasty and Boo Chisholm and Siege Falco, if Quintero went to Atlanta and fell that far, and obviously a lot of these mocks have got him falling even further, I feel like that would just be a match made in heaven. I just want to hear Jason Miller say "hot" again. That woke me up.
Well, we'll get to him in a moment again, so maybe he'll share some of that hotness with us momentarily. Twin Screw, what do you think about this anonymous mock draft that got sent to me this afternoon out of the blue from someone?
I think it's really interesting. One thing I do see, we got the wide receivers, which we already talked about. We got a lot of DBs. If you look at, I got a couple on my board too, but a lot of teams are somewhat set for their DBs, at least their main core, to where they can start going to their other needs and possibly get some of those DBs later on. The Jack Lewis at number 2, that's real interesting. We go back to here and the flack that they took for weeks, I think. But I think DC has got to fill other stuff before the kicker at number 2. But real interesting. I think a lot of that could fall into place easily.
Yeah, I agree. Tyler, before I get to you, Riddler in the chat said, surprised tight ends aren't predicted to go earlier. They are blockers better than most O-linemen and can catch as an added bonus. Who wouldn't like to help a struggling O-line with a smaller tackle that can catch? Tyler, what do you think about that thought, and what jumps out at you from this anonymous draft that was sent today?
No, that's a really good point. In tight ends, we have a really good class of tight ends with Will Todd, Guy Clausen, Jason France, Viva La France. Mm-hmm. We have a really, really fantastic tight end group. And so if teams aren't picking a tight end, either with their first or second pick, if they have it, I think if there's an opening for that team, I think they might be in trouble come the later stages of the draft. But as for what I'm looking at this, what I've been thinking, just milling over in my mind is, the Hubba Kibble, that picking that early is a little bit strange to me. Not because not for him for Hubba, but for Carolina. I think they need more pick a different guy there at number 8. I'm gonna go off on a hunch here that Sioux Falls isn't going to draft a fullback. They have one pick, and I think they need to spend it on somewhere else. I think they might pick up either Roger Law, the cornerback, or Marco Swift, the cornerback, instead of a fullback.
Okay. You know what, Cam? Let me bring you in on this. I wasn't originally going to, but since you're sticking around, I want to see, first of all, what do you think about the fact that, number one, I'm getting sent anonymous mock drafts. Number 2, we've got people like Jason Miller coming on the show for the first time specifically to talk about mock drafts and the draft coming up. The draft is a super hot topic right now, but it seems like it's even hotter than last season.
Yeah, next you're going to get a magazine clip art with a bunch of letters on your fridge that says "put the money in the dumpster" on 5th and Weston. I mean, I don't know, but I think what's something that no one has considered. What if Mike Ryan talked about Optimus's mother in the meeting? Like, do we even know if they even like him? I mean, it's just they all seem to have a foregone conclusion, and we really don't know what Mike is like behind closed doors in an interview setting. We really have no idea. So he's probably very arrogant in those meetings. I would imagine. But no, it's interesting. I mean, it's certainly. I'm glad I'm here tonight because I sort of dread the amount of work that the draft production takes every year, and this gets me fired up to do that. To do that stuff. It's sort of thankless work and very repetitive stuff. You're writing team summaries for everybody. You're making sure that you've got on the clock stuff and pick is in stuff and player highlights and going through all that. And this is, it's just really exciting to see these guys. And I don't know what it is, Dave. Maybe it's all the shows we've had, the fact that the minor league had one more extra team, but I really feel like I've gotten to watch a lot of these players play a lot of football already. Like I feel I've seen them play and I know who they are, and that's really cool. I mean, you really kind of got to see their styles sort of come out in the minors, and a guy like Riley Quintero, who's bouncing all over the first round. People talk about what does it matter? What does it matter? Well, he led the league in receiving yards, and you don't go a show without talking about where is Riley Quintero going to go. So that just goes to show you that it's relevant.
It is absolutely relevant. Yeah, and I was actually thinking that earlier, that almost every single name I've seen on these draft boards I'm familiar with because of the way the SFLM was this season. Let's see here. Gunny, are you around? Did Gunny leave us, or is he here?
Gunny is always here.
Gunny is always here.
He's in a fog call right now, yes.
All right, Gunny. Are you ready to rock and roll with your pearls of wisdom this evening?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, knock yourself out.
Hey, good evening, SFL. I did tell Dave today I thought I was going to be late. Tonight I was celebrating a celebration of life for a friend that today is her heavenly birthday. So in her honor, I did have some fireball shots. So, no story should end too soon. Hashtag suicide awareness. Katie, I miss you. I'm thinking of you. And now on to another edition of 12 Days of Christmas. 12 games I will miss being Liam Hammer's teammate. 11, Thomas Smith, I will miss you too. 10, days until Gunny's birthday. A tight end calendar, please. Number 9, salutes to Craven, Day, the Bash Brothers. 8, Hugo hikes the earth to sack quarterbacks. 7, glasses of buttery Chardonnay for my owner, Charles. 6, over-under on broadcasting with Cam saying, hammer time. 5, access. You're muted, bro. 4, Hawaiian Swarm hair flips from Dynasty. 3, glorious letters, LSG. 2, days until the S16 draft. Good luck. And number 1, an SFL championship under the Christmas tree. And with that, that is all.
Awesome, Gunny. Thank you. I'm getting used to these 12 days of Christmas. You're kind of setting a precedent. You might have to start doing them every show now. Just saying. Yes, Charles put in there mic drop. Absolute mic drop. That is all, mic drop. All right, Gunny, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. Let's get to our special guest, Mr. Jason Miller. Jason, again, welcome to the program. Thanks for coming in tonight. I've been reading some of your writings. I've divided up your first round mock draft into 3 different slides. So we'll do 8 teams at a time, and I'll bring the panelists in to comment as well. But before we do that, anything you want to tell us about just maybe an overview of your mock draft, how you came about it, anything like that?
Well, like you said before, you're talking about politics and stuff like that, where I came from a world of politics, and you got to be able to read people. You got to be able to read the situations in a room. There was a lot of stuff that went down with NATO that I didn't really realize what the hell was going on. But at the end of the day, I got out of that and was able to come into the world of the SFL and wanted to be a mock draft specialist. So coming into this, I really, just looking at the rosters, looking at the value, and looking at what positions they need to fill. And that's what this mock draft is all about.
Okay. Unlike the other mock drafts, all the other mock drafts we've seen, you have somebody different going at number 1. You have Devin King. Would you mind explaining that?
Well, yeah, I think that everybody's just really high on Mike Ryan, and really with Mike Ryan, he should be a top pick for sure. But just looking at San Diego and looking at their roster, they need a linebacker. They need a young linebacker that's going to come in and just lead that core, and Devin King is that guy.
Okay. You do still have Mike Ryan in your top 3, Riley Quintero, like everybody else has been talking about. Explain to me why you think Tulsa should grab a quarterback at 5. Do you think it's just because they're the first team to pick a quarterback and they should grab their guy?
I think so. I mean, just looking at those 3 teams, somebody's going to take a quarterback. Somebody's got to jump the gun first. And so that's going to be Tulsa. Having Deacon Nickens wanting to test free agency was just, not really a shock from the stories that I have heard. So them looking at their guy, they have the top pick. I don't think they want to wait around. I think they want to just go ahead and get this done. And I can hear Pierce Manning TD calls all day long coming from our commissioner, Cameron Irvine.
Okay. Let me bring in, let's go to Benji. Benji, as you look at these first 8 picks by Jason Miller, he shook things up a little bit, but there are still some familiar names. What do you think about his top 8 picks?
Jason Miller's breathing a breath of fresh air into the realm of the mock draft. It's really hard to say. I don't do anything with mock drafts. I just mock them. So
you mock the mock drafts?
I mock the mock drafts, but I think that's really a key. That it's interesting take with San Diego at number 1. building around a defensive centerpiece with your first pick. If you're San Diego, you really can't go wrong. Whether it is Mike Ryan with that top pick or Devin King there, DC Riley Quintero. I think he's got key components going to places that they sure do make sense. Maybe some of the names are different, but he's hitting the nail on the head with the needs of these teams.
Okay. Eagle, let me ask you the same question. What do you think about these top 8 picks by Jason Miller?
Oh, Jason Miller. No, it's about, I would say the position wise is pretty spot on. I know London is, hoping Jack Lewis goes that far so they can take a kicker, but I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, Devin King at number 1 though is a little interesting, but it makes sense to me. Devin's got family ties to San Diego, so that makes complete sense why San Diego would take Devin King with that pick. Really, to me, the wild card is always going to be DC, because you really don't know what position they're going to draft because the needs are so great that they have. Because if they don't draft a kicker, they go with a generic kicker. They don't draft an offensive lineman, they're not getting an offensive lineman. They don't draft a wide receiver, they're not getting a top wide receiver. So DC is not in a good position, in my opinion, with that second pick.
Yeah, second's always toughest, right? I'd rather be first or maybe push back a little bit. Jason, before I move on to your next 8 picks, is there anything else you want to say about these first 8?
I mean, I agree with Eagle there. I think that, Jack Lewis is kind of a guy that if he does fall to 4, I could just see London taking him just because of the fact that they moved JT Delaney over to Ponner. But with these picks, I think they're pretty in line with what's going on there. In DC, you just don't know what the hell they're going to do. I mean, 15 picks, I mean, come on. That's a lot of players, Tony. And at the end of the day, this, they could go wide receiver. They could go defensive tackle. Hell, they could go punter themselves. We don't know.
That's a great point, too. All right, let me move on to the second 8 picks, 9 through 16 here. St. Louis, that's a really big paragraph there. Shocking selection, right? Not JQ. Let's just start with that, Jason. I mean, that's the thing that just jumps off the page to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not that high on JQ. I think a lot of people aren't either. I mean, when you look at all these mock drafts, you just don't see them anywhere. I just think with the way that St. Louis has been in the past, with Eagle Mondavi being the GM and everybody else that's on board there at St. Louis, they're building something special. And I don't think they want to just waste that something special on just somebody regular. They want to go get a guy that's going to shock the SFL, and that's what L.A. Rhea does. He's got the highest QBR. He's got the highest completion percentage. He reminds me a lot of a former St. Louis quarterback great and Johnny Pickler.
Okay, the other thing that really jumps off the page to me is you're the first mock draft person to put Will Todd in your mock draft. But I believe, doesn't Florida already have 1 or 2 tight ends? What's your thought process there?
From what I remember, I don't think they have a tight end just because of Optimus leaving for San Diego. But either way, even if they don't have a tight end, I can easily see or if they already have one, I could see Will Todd going in there and just being a perfect piece for that Florida Storm offense.
Well, let me ask Slyn Shady. Let me bring Slyn in here. Slyn, Jason seems to be really shaking up these mock drafts with a lot of changes compared to the other ones we've seen. What are your thoughts?
I think it's kind of the thing is the conventional wisdom is that every team is looking for more off the field attributes than on the field, whereas you don't know that. You don't know that teams aren't looking at like the builds of the players and make sure they fit in with their team. So if you look, like I noticed in the first round, Mike Ryan had dropped down 3 places. I mean, if there's any weakness for Mike Ryan, it's the fact that his build isn't as good technically on paper as some of the other safeties in the draft. So the first 2 teams might go elsewhere with someone like Devin King, who has 2 seasons of SFLM under his belt. So maybe Jason's just gone with, when he's put himself in the sort of headspace of these teams, more of a priority towards fit on the field rather than solely off the field activity and contribution to the team.
What are your thoughts about Will Todd actually being on a draft board now?
I like it. I mean, tight end's such an important. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mike Daggs was got the most yards and the most touchdowns receiving last season. So it's proved that if you can. And Adam Williams obviously had a breakout year, and he was a rookie at the time. So it proves that if you can use a tight end effectively, then it can be just as effective as a wide receiver. And if anyone is going to figure out how to use the tight end effectively, apart from Lone Star, clearly, then Max Paul is the right person. So, I mean, if Will Todd's going to go anywhere, I think he'd be very happy to go to somewhere like Florida.
That's awesome. Okay. Tyler, let me bring you in here. The first mock draft where you're not actually number one. How does that make you feel?
No, that makes me feel actually perfectly fine. In fact, I'm trying to remember who it was. I have to make sure you want to pull up first date again, because I've been trying to think of
what
to say
pull
for
up
first date.
Pull up which one?
His first date. Because I had
right there
a couple things to say about. I eventually could catch over my end. All right, there we go. Devin King, definitely a good pick if San Diego goes linebacker instead of what most people have going on is myself. No, but that's a fantastic pick. Another pick I liked from that first date, though, Roger Law going to Las Vegas. That's a fantastic, I think, a steal for Las Vegas picking Roger Law up for their team. Let's go. We can go ahead back to that middle eight, because the one thing I want to touch on was free safety Bernard Smith going to Arizona. That right there is almost a match for pretty much everyone involved. Bernard Smith is just starting up with Nelson Lozano on Nelson's show on Fridays and now Mondays. And so having multiple content creators in Arizona would really do wonders for AJ, for Eddie. Eddie to Arizona is probably almost a done deal at this point.
Okay. Jason, let me bring you back in here real quick. Let me go back. Oh, no, that's it. Before I move on to your third slide and I bring in Twin Screw and the commish again, what else any other thoughts or comments you want to make about the second 8 right here?
Yeah, just to touch on it. I mean, we said earlier about Fanar being a top 5 pick, and I said he just screams something else, and that's exactly what he does. He screams Scorpion to me. I mean, Eddie Gage being a Hall of Famer, he can have an eye for talent, and I think Fanar Smith just fits that perfectly. Another guy that would be interesting to see, too, is Deuce Fennick, the wide receiver going to your Lone Star glory. I mean, who wouldn't want to hear Fennick to Fennick for a touchdown all day long?
Here you go. Maybe I can get the commission to say it tonight on the air before we leave. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine to hear a sweet preview from Cameron Irvine saying Fennick to Fennick for the touchdown. But another pick too, I think, is really interesting on here as well is Josh Farnsey going to Queen City. I mean, if he falls that low, that's a great pick for Queen City.
Yeah, that's another great point. Okay, let's move on to your final 8 of the first round. Vancouver kicks things off. We get to have San Diego, DC, and Portland picking again, since we have 3 teams not picking. What jumps out at you about your own draft here on these final 8?
Well, everything jumps out at me because I wrote the damn thing. But I mean, to me, like a guy like Josh Gill going to Denver is an interesting because, we all know how good the play action is for Denver, and they need a guy in the middle that could come over and be in the slot and just, go over the middle and just be a great pickup. So Josh Gill is another guy right there. Guy Clausen, the second tight end on my first round board. Yes, you heard that correctly. I have 2 tight ends on my board. And DC is going to look to get that guy because by the time they come back around to one of their 19 million picks, they're going to have to get a tight end with some value, and that's where they're going to get him right here with Guy Clausen.
Okay. Twin Screw, let me bring you in. As you've seen these 3 pages now, the first round of Jason's mock draft, what stands out to you, especially in these final 8?
With the final 8, I'll start out with Vancouver. Right now, Vancouver in the free agency and things like that, they have one player on the defensive line. They have one defensive end. So I don't think there's any way they're going linebacker with this pick. I think they're going to go probably defensive tackle. And if you saw my draft, all those defensive tackles are going in the first round just because that's all there is. And one team is going to grab them, and the others that need defensive tackles are going to grab the rest of them.
So let me ask you a couple. Let me go back and ask you a couple questions that we asked the other people. Number one, Devin King going first. Second question is Tulsa grabbing Colin Pierce right out the gate. And then the third question is Will Todd going to Florida in the middle of the round?
Okay, so Devin King, first pick. I'm just Devin King. He was in the minors 2 seasons now, and again, I'm big on the activity, and you just don't see him. So that's my thing on Devin King. I wish he's a great player, great build, great everything. Just don't see him.
Okay, what about Colin Pierce to Tulsa?
Obviously, it could happen, and like we've talked about with the quarterbacks, once that first one rolls, then the other ones could probably go too. So it's doable. I mean, for me, with having Tulsa, let me bring mine back. Having Tulsa going with the free safety, I mean, the next pick would be quarterback. So easy to go either way, I think.
Okay. And then lastly, before I move on to Cam, Will Todd to Florida.
So Will Todd, or any tight end going to Florida, they already got one tight end. I don't know if Florida's going to run a 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end set. I'm not sure that they will. That's why I didn't put a second tight end to Florida.
Okay. Cam, let me bring you back in. And as you look at all of this, but maybe particularly these last 8, since we didn't comment on them a lot, comment on that for me, especially with Guy Clausen there too as a tight end. So you got 2 tight ends on this draft. And then the other thing I'd like you to comment on, everybody's talking about Riley Quintero being, the wide receiver to go first, but I'm also seeing Chris Lee at the very beginning of every single mock draft.
First, Dave, we have to acknowledge your boys in Las Vegas getting Josh Jacobs a fantasy football semifinal touchdown for your boy, Cameron Irvine, coming back. Dad, I'm going to get 4. You still got 2, and you suck. All right, so the last 8. It's Chris Lee was a part of that Tacoma surge at the end of the season. They were playing so well. And man, JQ and Reno, man, they were just slinging the ball all over the place with Chris Lee, and he looked good. Another guy I really thought I saw in some of these mocks was Michael Hammer.
Oh, I think let me pull this up.
He was.
No, I think he was in the anonymous one.
Yeah, but I've seen him, I think, maybe a couple of times. And he was another guy that down the stretch I felt like really made a name for himself.
Oh, there he is right there. He has him going to Atlanta right there.
Yeah, and I would there it is right there. Yeah, Atlanta. Also, I would put Grizzly in that category too. He's been on a lot of these mocks. And I can't remember a game Grizzly didn't have a sack for Albuquerque. He always seemed to have at least one. And I think he really made a name for himself down the stretch too. So I think this draft towards the back of it, or this mock, I should say, has a lot of names that made a name for themselves down the line. Clausen is one of those. Even Gary Clem is another that really performed well there in the back half of the season.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm going to wrap up with Jason, Cam, and then I'm going to ask you to speak to everybody about what to expect this weekend. Jason, do me a favor and comment on some of the comments the panel made about your mock draft, and then just kind of wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so, first off, Vancouver actually has 2 defensive linemen, if I remember correctly. Mike Coverson is one, and then Gerald Giudice is the other. Now, the commish can confirm or deny that one. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure they have 2. But, overall, this has just been a really fun experience for me, coming out of the politic world to come into the esport mock draft world. It's just been something fantastic. I want to thank you, Dave Axis, once again for an opportunity to come on the show and just show my knowledge off of what I think is going to go down Saturday night in the SFL draft.
Yeah, Jason, thank you for the things that you write, the mock drafts you do, and for coming on the show. We'd love to have you back again.
Oh, for sure.
All right, thank you. Real quick, let's go with Cam. Cam, I'm trying to look for a good graphic to put up here while you're talking about the draft.
Just don't put my face up there, man.
Oh, I've got some pictures of you, boy. Let me tell you.
No, you're just going to lose all your viewership.
How about I just put a picture of me? How about that? All right, so let everybody know. I know the draft is this Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 19th to the 21st. All 3 nights start at 7 p.m. But tell the audience kind of what to expect when they tune in for the draft.
Well, first of all, now the disturbance of you possibly putting your face up there is now questioning having you required on webcam for Round 3's hosting on Monday. So I'm
going to put my face all over it. You know that.
Okay, all right. So what was the question again? I was thinking about your face popping up and looking at me.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot. People get distracted thinking of me. I hear that a lot, Cam. What should people expect when tuning in this weekend for the draft?
Oh, okay, perfect. All right. So each team gets 5 minutes to make a selection. While we're waiting on them to make a selection, you'll see live look-ins to front office personnel of that team, right? So we're gonna see kind of what's going on with those. I hope that every team has someone that can participate that is involved in the draft for their team, so that we can get a look at that. And then while we're looking at the pick, we're going to have kind of team synopsises. The panel's going to be breaking down where they think they might go. They're going to be looking at some of the mocks that have been put together. We've been updating our panelists and our hosts with the most up-to-date mocks as they come out. So there's going to be discussion on that, and really it's just going to be that very nervous energy. Once the pick comes in, or once the team sends in the pick to me, then we sort of prepare the unveiling of the pick. You'll hear a sound effect. I'm not going to imitate it because I'm not going to have that be a meme. But you'll hear a sound effect.
Hold on. Okay, go ahead now.
No. No. You'll hear a sound effect, and that'll indicate, right, that the pick is in and that sort of the league office is ready. So they'll send it to me to make the selection. And then if you're a rookie participating on camera and you get picked, we want to get your live reaction on the draft. Some people got very creative last year, so if you're looking to get creative, I'm sure that'll be pretty great. I can choose who I put on the air and who I don't put on the air. So if you're doing something vulgar, I just don't show you. So just be wise and professional. But yeah, we want to show your live reaction to that moment on the draft, and that'll be really exciting. The top prospects, the prospects that you see featured on every mock draft, or the majority of the mock drafts, and that we feel like are going to go high. You'll see highlights of that player's production from the minor leagues. So we'll have some footage on those guys and what they've done in the minors as well. And then obviously you'll have your standard draft things. You'll have a ticker on there so you can keep track of who's all been selected. You'll have an on-deck graphic so that you can see kind of who's next to make selections. If there are pick trades, we'll announce those pick trades. And then you'll also see the hosts and all the panelists on webcam, breaking down the draft, suited and booted or otherwise. It's a big night for these rookies. We try to do it up, and try to live in the moment, and make things happen for them.
Hey, let me ask you a couple quick questions. I've seen in the chat a couple of people have asked about trades. Are there any draft trades allowed prior to the draft, or does it have to start once the draft begins?
So they can be agreed upon the day of the draft, and then that will be announced and reported on by the league prior to the draft starts, if that's what the teams want to do, right? So they can come before then. And then Chris Lee said that he hopes to be featured in those highlights. I do want to let rookies know that either as a help to me, or if you aren't quite sure you're going to be going, but you'd like to do it for yourself anyway, the highlight reels are 40 seconds. If you want to make your own highlight reel and you want to send that to me, I will play it if you get picked. So if you wanna go all out and kind of do it your own way, then I can air that as well. It's just because we've got the panelists talking. It's just the video, so no need to go too fancy with any sort of audio or anything. But if you want to participate and get some highlights together for your player, it's a 40-second highlight package, and you are more than welcome to participate in that. I don't mean to leave anybody out, but obviously the league can't cut a bunch of highlights for 106 people. We just don't have the staff for that. But yeah, that's all the components of a live draft.
Okay. Real quick, does anybody on the panel have any questions about the draft this weekend before we move on to the After Dark segment with Cam Curtis and Epic Esports?
I've got one.
Eagle, go ahead.
I know last season we weren't allowed 1-for-1 trades. Is it still the same for this season? I just want to make sure. Is it like we can do 2-for-2 or 2-for-1? We just can't do the one pick for one pick, right?
Correct. 2-for-2 is allowed. 1-for-1 is not allowed. So you could do 1-for-3, 1-for-2, 2-for-2, 2-for-3, et cetera, et cetera. It's just the 1-for-1 that would not be allowed.
And the reason for that, Cam, is because there's no true value for value in a 1-for-1 trade in this draft.
Correct. Yeah. If you traded the 8th pick for the 23rd pick, that's not something that you would see happen,
right,
in real life without having some sort of compensatory pick for the next draft. But because we don't do draft pick trades, for future rounds, that's not possible. Now, draft pick trades for future rounds is possible if we end up reaching a point one day in the draft where everybody drafts a certain amount of players no matter what, right? But until the league ever becomes that, we're not going to allow teams to trade future picks because they may be banking on, I'm not going to need those picks next year.
Right.
And then that creates a complete disadvantage in the eyes of the trade. So,
yep, totally agree. Anybody else from the panel have a question for Cam before we let him go?
I'm sorry. I was just going to add, do you need me for the draft there, Cam?
You want to be on the draft?
I mean, if you're going to talk about my mock drafts and stuff, I think that might not be a bad idea.
Well, right now we do have full panels all 3 nights. But if you want to be an emergency contact if somebody happens to drop out, I'd be more than happy to have you on.
There you go.
All right. Eagle, did you?
That's how it's done.
I was gonna hit on Winkler's comment. That's all.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Because there are certain teams that are gonna have available cap, right? If we could, trade cap for picks. Like if you did a 1-for-1 trade, adding cap, does that make any sense, Cam, or is that something you guys don't even want to think about?
So that is quite honestly the first time I have ever heard of anybody suggesting that. Meaning,
Winkler breaking on Axis Live.
I have no idea. Maybe that is something that comes about in future seasons. That's interesting, right? It's essentially saying, we'll give you some money, which happens,
right?
In drafts, you get so and so for so and so, and you get 600,000 in cap emergency, whatever. So that's happened before, and that's certainly an interesting prop there. Fire or Fear Dog asked who is on the panels. So round 1 is hosted by Chris Curtis. The panel includes Brian Craven, Eagle Mondavi. It includes Frank Wade, and also
Benji.
Benji that was added to that panel. On round 2, Eric Vinson is hosting alongside Craven. Tyler Falk will be there. Ashley Jackson and Jacob Bouvet. And the third round will be capped by
Say it.
some
say
loser.
it. Say it. You know you want to
Dave
say
Axis.
it. You know you want to say
Dave
it.
Axis with a crew of Tyler Falk, Eagle Mondavi, Eddie Gage, Robert Garrett Jr., and Charles Doherty. So those are your draft panels. And yeah, if for whatever reason somebody has to tap out, we've got some people on reserve. Gerald Giudice, Jason Miller now. So we'll have it stacked. Our crew will be ready to go, rip roaring and ready to go 3 nights in a row.
Awesome. Say my name. Say my name. Come on, Cam. You
Please stop.
I can't help it. All right. Anybody else got anything for Cam so we can get on to the other Cam, actually? Nothing? Nobody? All right. Cam, thanks for being on and giving us all that info. Appreciate it.
I'm off the hook, Dave. We'll see you Saturday.
Later, bro. I didn't even have to tell him he was muted this time. What do you know? All right. Dave, it's a football draft, not a draft on tap. Oh, damn, Yogi. I can't make it then. I thought it was like a Monday night thing. My bad. All right. As you know, we tried to wrap up most of these shows, the last portion being the Axis After Dark, which obviously I didn't change the graphic from last show. We have a very special Axis After Dark teaser video that I will be playing momentarily from Epic Esports, and then Cam and his crew will come on to talk to us, give the announcement, and take questions from any of you who have them. So with no further ado, Epic Esports teaser video is on now.
It's a different feeling.
Another catch for Maximus Blue. That one winds up for 6.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You got to see it live here first on Axis Live. Let me bring in the man who put that together, and let's hear what his announcement is. Mr. Cam Curtis, the head of Epic Esports, as well as the quarterback for the Fort Worth Toros. Cameron, how you doing, bro?
Good, how are you? First of all, thank you for having us on the show. Second of all, I do want to say that we're all doing this together as a team. We got Coach Craven and Tom Welsh and myself. We decided we wanted to bring the experience of a rookie, because everyone has different experiences, and we want to bring those experiences to all of you, because everyone's path is different. So what we done is we chose one offense and one defense, and we're going to try to bring those experiences to you. I don't want to get too much into it right now. What you saw, we didn't want to show you something you've already kind of seen in a sense. So you didn't really see a lot of new stuff. We gave you stuff you kind of already seen and a hint of it. But to further talk about this, I'm going to turn it over to either Tom Welsh or Coach Craven.
Tom, come on in for a second. First of all, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. And by the way, just for those of you who don't know, Tom Welsh actually created my intro video as well that you see during the countdown. So, Tom, thank you again for that. And explain to everybody what we just saw and what you guys have coming up.
Yeah, of course. We, like Cam, we really wanted to focus on two players, maybe, two guys that aren't in the chat so much or you don't know too much about to kind of help their draft stock and kind of help kind of propel them in the rankings of, or the list and so on and so forth. But, we put this together. Cam did a great job of getting the pieces for me, and Coach did a great job interviewing the guys. And I just put together the video trying to, garner some hype for these two guys, for Sean Moore and Frank Wade's kid. So really just, trying to spotlight some guys that might not otherwise be spotlighted.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Coach, let me bring you in. What's your part in all this?
I've got the easiest part of all of this. I just sit there and talk and ask questions, and then I send all the stuff off to the talent and let them put it together. So that's my job.
Easy,
and,
easy peasy.
It's easy. It's easy. Same old crap I'm always doing, basically. So no, I will say it was fun. Interviewing the guys was a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to this. This was a vision these two guys had, and they said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to do it. This sounds fantastic." So.
That's awesome. Cam, let me ask you, how did you guys come about this whole idea? How long have you guys been thinking about it? How long did it take to put together?
So far, we kind of thought about it together just a matter of a few days ago. And, at first we had so much going on, we didn't realize how close it was to the draft. And we were talking about, hey, why don't we start a mini series? And then we realized, oh, well, wait, the draft's, in about a week. So we put a lot of stuff together, and right now you don't see any of that stuff. Well, the teaser video you obviously see, but there's so much more content we already have, and it's all ready to go. And there's so much more we're going to grab. I mean, we really, really want to do a nice documentary that shows you who the player is, who they were before the SFL, what was their experience like in the SFL, how was it when they were drafted, how was it after the draft, the team's interaction with these people. We really wanted to do something special for the community, and we're hoping at the end you guys will all enjoy this.
Awesome. Tom, let me bring you back in. When can we expect to see some of this stuff kicking off?
We're hoping to basically get it put out right after the draft. We're going to do some more interviews with the guys, kind of get their reactions about being drafted, hopefully, and incorporate some of the clips and stuff like that, and then hopefully get it out in the next couple weeks. Luckily, I have the next 2 weeks off, so I have nothing but free time. So definitely give me the time to put it together and kind of piece everything together. The only issue with having too much downtime is I'll never be satisfied with the final product, but it's just kind of how the thing goes. You watch it back and I watched the teaser back and I was like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, but obviously want to give these guys as much pub as possible and make them look good and at the end of the day make this something that they'll remember and they'll be able to look on fondly and just be part of their SFL experience.
Awesome. Coach, any last words before I go to Cam for the wrap up?
No, I can't really add anything. I'm really excited about it. The interviews were fantastic talking to these guys, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, awesome. Cameron, let me bring you back in real quick. First of all, thanks for debuting this on my show. I appreciate that. Any last words you want to say to everybody about this project?
I'd like to say a message to all owners. We don't need to know if you draft these two individuals, but if they are on your draft board and you are prepared to draft them, we're asking for those teams to participate. And the way we would like you to participate is anywhere from a 30-second to 60-second video in the war room of when you guys decide to draft them, like maybe a Zoom video type setup. We want to see what that moment was like on both sides. So we want to see, the conversation, the owners of drafting that person, and give everyone an inside look of what happens on that side, as well as what happens on the rookie side.
Okay.
So even if you might not be interested in drafting those players, spread the word around the owners channel and let other people know, because we really want to bring that experience to everybody.
That's awesome, Cam. Looks like a wonderful project. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of guys excited about it, and congrats on the whole thing.
Thank you. And thank you for having us on the show.
Of course, you got it, bro. All right, so that wraps up the After Dark portion. That was a really cool thing to see from the guys over at Epic Esports, putting things together for you rookies that are going to be drafted, and telling your prequel story, if you will, and then your post-draft story. So it's really cool project put on by Cam and the guys over at Epic Esports. I'm going to wrap up this show on kind of not a great note, and I'm going to see if I can get through this. A few things. Number one, I want to reiterate from the beginning of the show when I mentioned that Jeff Gagne had shared some information with the league about his mom, and I just want to say once again how we're all thinking of Jeff and his family and praying for them and for that situation. Also, Achilles would like to point out a loss for our SFLM brother, Stephen Walker, who lost his best friend today. We all love you, my brother. He will ask me to read that on the air. Our thoughts and prayers are with you as well, Achilles and their family. I want to wrap up this show on a personal note. One of my best friends today, you guys all know Trick Apparel. He was one of my first sponsors of the show. He's the one who did all the giveaways that I still have to get out to you guys. His daughter today was diagnosed with leukemia. She's 22 years old. She's the same age as my younger son. So I just wanted to say publicly, Bailey, we love you. We are praying for you. She is such a great, great young woman. She is the kind of person that you would think and know would pull through something like this. So I just want to say to Trick and his entire family, to Bailey, that we love you guys, and we're praying for you, and we can't wait to see Bailey pull through all of this. So thank you for everyone for kind of tuning in still for a few minutes and letting me say something that's a little personal that I normally don't do, but I just felt it's very important. It hit our family pretty hard today. It hit our whole group pretty hard today, especially when you have kids that are exactly the same age. So, especially when they're so close to you. So anyway, anybody who's going through anything similar, again, thoughts and prayers, hopes and wishes to everybody. I mean, cancer's a bitch, and I'm sure there's nobody in this crowd that hasn't had to deal with it at all. Everybody's had some sort of, situation where they've had to deal with it. So just wanted to point that out, and not just for Bailey, but for other people as well. Hopefully we can finally beat that thing. So I want to thank Benji, Eagle, Jason Miller, Twin Screw, Tyler, Slyn Shady for being on the panel, the commish for coming on tonight, and of course the boys from Epic Esports, Cam Curtis, Tom Welsh, and Coach. And as always, so I don't forget again, Gunny, the wisest man in the SFL, with not only his pearls of wisdom, but now his 12 days of Christmas. So thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. We had another great crowd. Thank you for all the interaction, all the comments, the questions, the jokes, the whole 9 yards. It's what keeps us going. I love it. I love you guys. and appreciate everyone. I will see you next Tuesday for our post-draft special. I'll actually see you Monday night. You get to actually see my mug, and you get to see my mug. You'll see what I mean on Monday night. We'll see you Monday night. We'll see you Tuesday night. I will not have a show Christmas Eve, so we'll do a little Christmas thing on Tuesday. So in the meantime, you guys have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful draft weekend, and I will see you at the tees.